Ready? We'll begin with the mayor's report.
Speak loud.
Okay, the mayor's report. Citizens of Herman, I hope that on May 22nd, I will be able to report to you that the Herman Board of Aldermen has unanimously voted to place a 7/8 cent sales tax proposal on the August 6th election ballot. We have been discussing and evaluating this decision and have considered many options during those deliberations. After a public workshop and input from private citizens and businesses in our city, we have come up with a sales tax option as our best choice, and 7/8 seems to be the right amount. 7/8 of a cent will raise approximately $450,000 per year. The most popular aspect of using a sales tax is that everybody pays a little bit. A 7/8 cent sales tax applied to a $100 purchase is only an 88 cent increase in the price of $100 of merchandise. When a tourist buys a $10 hamburger, French fries and Coke, his bill will be increased by 8 cents. A sales tax is paid by everyone that buys merchandise in Herman. This includes tourists who may pay as much as 30% of our sales tax. Tourists and visitors use our streets as well as our citizens, and with the sales tax, they all help pay for our streets. In addition to the fairness aspect of the tax itself, there are several other benefits. First, the additional benefit is that no bonding is required. Second, the benefit is there is no bond indebtedness to reflect on our books. Third is no principal payment must be made every year. Fourth, there's no interest payments. Fifth is by a simple act of the Board of Aldermen, the tax can be stopped at any time. Additionally, the tax will have a sunset of 18 years, or less if you decide that you want to make it less, but that means that it will go away at the end of that period. I want to explain this. We've had suggestions that we make it 10 years, or some other number of years. If we make it less than 18 years, we probably won't finish all the streets, which means that someday at the end of the taxing, we will have to ask for another tax to finish the streets, or some people will be left without paved streets. So part of the people, if we use 10 years, maybe as many as half the people will have streets, and another large percentage won't have streets. There's going to be, I think, a lot of upset people if they've paid, and some got the streets and some didn't. So I think my suggestion is that we go with a long enough period of time so we're sure that the streets can be all paid. Now, that's up to the Board of Aldermen, so we'll figure that out soon. The tax will be strictly limited to rebuilding and replacement of streets. We also propose, and it will be decided by the board, whether or not we change, the city of Herman charges sales tax on utility sales. The mayor and aldermen do not want to increase your utility costs because of this 7/8 cent sales tax. So in order to avoid this, the mayor and aldermen are considering reducing utility rates by the amount of increased sales tax. That means every ratepayer, if this is adopted, will see a slightly reduced rate on their utility bills, which will offset any additional sales tax that might have been charged to them for utilities. When you add the sales tax increase and the electric rate decrease, they will offset one another, and there will be no net change in your utility bill. The reducing of utility rates and the sunset of 18 years have not been determined. That's just what I am suggesting. But the Board of Aldermen will make that decision soon. The 2019-2020 city budget, we've held one budget workshop so far, but we've made cuts that to this date take about $340,000 from our budget. We still have several more deliberations with the possibility of more adjustments to come. This is something we do every year. This is the same process, and we usually cut a significant amount of money from the budget. The demolition grant, as many people know, has not been approved, and we're working especially on the ownership of the Bevco building, so we can take legal steps to take care of that building and maybe bring it down. Dave, do you want to kind of fill us in where you stand on that?
Yeah, we got the local title company to give us a letter or title reports to confirm the owners of each of the properties that we want to take down. We got that a few days ago. We've confirmed registered agents' addresses and all the addresses that we need to send these notices to, because the code and the statute requires that you give a notice of your intent to take down a dangerous building to the owners of record and anybody who has an interest in the property. If it's a lender or a mechanics lien holder or somebody like that, they all have to get notice of this. So we're making sure that we dot all i's and cross t's.
Okay. Municipal court transfer evaluation. Several months, we've been working on this for several months. Trish and Anita and other people are trying to see if it makes sense for us to transfer our municipal court to the county and have a county municipal court with a county municipal court judge. We will use our prosecuting attorney and so forth. No decision's been made, and Trish has some more information that she needs to gain, and then we'll get a full report to the board so we can consider that at some point. There may be some savings there. The grain belt transmission line, I'm going to explain that. I testified before the Senate on the 1st of May. The grain belt transmission line is an electric utility. It's been determined to be a public utility by the Public Service Commission and the Supreme Court of the state of Missouri. It is asking for the rights and has been given the rights to build this line across the state to carry wind power from western Kansas across the state of Missouri and drop it off so it can be distributed to MOPEP cities, of which we are. We are one. There's 39 other cities in the MOPEP cooperative that would gain as much as $12 million a year in reduced electric charges. The wind power will take the place of coal-fired plants in Illinois, and that would be in some ways a very good trade-off, wind power for coal power. But anyway, it means about $250,000 a year in reduced electric rates to the people of Herman. So I went to the hearing and I explained that $250,000 in reduced electric cost to the city would mean we could reduce rates to people if we so desired, and I hope we would, and maybe be more competitive with our larger commercial customers as well. But at any rate, it's a lot of money for our state and our city, and because of that, I am in favor of it. I'm not talking about eminent domain or any other legal issues. That's for the courts to decide. I have no influence whatsoever on that, and I made no position on that. Eminent domain has been granted to the grain belt people, and they could use it as a last resort, but they're hoping they can buy the property necessary to build this. So we'll watch that and see what happens. Lastly, I have the Bowl Trailer Court. As many of you know, the owners of Bowl Trailer Court on West 5th, I think it's 5th Street, 6th Street, West 6th Street, have decided to close the trailer court and are asking the remaining few trailers still there to move them. They've given them 6 months. The owners plan to use the property for a small residential subdivision. This is a private property matter. The city is not forcing evictions or in any way involved in this. That is what's going on. So in case anybody had any questions about that. Mark, do you have a report?
Very little, just that I attended the Merrimack Regional Planning Commission meeting last week, and I'll be going to the Ozark River Solid Waste Management meeting next week. and working with the Gas Commission on the new purchase strategy.
Okay, we have some ordinances. Dave, do you want to read the ordinances for us?
Yes. First, on for second reading is bill number 2019-16, an ordinance to approve a wastewater collection system rehabilitation agreement by and between the city of Herman, Missouri and In Situ Form Technologies USA LLC.
I move it second read.
We have a motion made and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion's carried.
Next, on for second reading is bill number 2019-17, an ordinance for the voluntary annexation of certain adjacent territory into the city of Herman, Missouri.
Make a motion to approve. Second.
We have a motion and second made. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion's carried.
Next, on for first reading, bill number 2019-18, an ordinance to approve a municipal services and material contract by and between the city of Herman, Missouri and Geothermal Experts LLC.
Can somebody explain what this is?
Yeah, this
So
is
people can,
several different horizontal boring jobs that the gas and the electric department went together to try to save some money. So I think majority are electric, and maybe one or two gas, but they went together to try to save cash on this deal.
Well, a lot of people see geothermal and think it's something completely different. This is a simple boring company.
Or, yeah, they're boring.
And the reason we do the boring is to keep from having to tear up yards, tear up streets and everything else. You start at point A and it comes out at point B and you can run it and there's not a lot of damage to our infrastructure that
Yep.
way. I move it first read.
we have a second.
I'll second.
Second by Susan. We have a motion and second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion's carried. Is there a reason to read that twice?
I think these three,
Okay.
all these projects are in this budget, and they're trying to get them wrapped up by June 30th.
Okay, let's read that again then.
All right. Bill number 2019-18 for second reading, an ordinance to approve a municipal services and material contract by and between the city of Herman, Missouri and Geothermal Experts LLC.
Motion to approve. Second.
Let's let, catch Jim on the second. We have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion's carried.
Next is bill number 2019-19 for first reading, an ordinance to approve a municipal services and material contract by and between the city of Herman, Missouri and Flynn Drilling Company.
And this is for,
Upgrades to, I think all of our wells, either control-wise, level control-wise, and also replacing the industrial park well pump.
okay. Any
Make a
other
motion
comment?
to approve it.
Okay, do we have a second?
I'll second.
Motion's made and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion's carried. Again, we need that again.
For second reading, bill number 2019-19, an ordinance to approve a municipal services and material contract by and between the city of Herman, Missouri and Flynn Drilling Company.
I move it second read. Second.
Motion's made and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion's carried.
Next, on for first reading is bill number 2019-20, an ordinance to approve a municipal services and material contract by and between the city of Herman, Missouri and Brian Graneman Services, Inc.
Electrical upgrade to the Upper City Park.
Do I have any other questions, or do I have a motion to accept this?
Motion to accept.
Second?
We have a motion made and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion's carried. He wants that read again.
All right, for second reading, bill number 2019-20, an ordinance to approve a municipal services and material contract by and between the city of Herman, Missouri and Brian Graneman Services, Inc.
I move it second read. Second.
Motion's made and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion's carried. Read the resolution.
Next, resolution number 1266, would be a resolution authorizing the issuance of space permits for the MyFest Festival.
Can I ask, we had a late submission, if you could approve that with one amendment of the Bacon Steakhouse at 100 Schiller Street. That's also, they also have the corresponding special event application that was at your desk when you sat down. We'll get to that later on the agenda as well.
Where are they going to be?
In the courtyard at Espresso Lane.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Resolution's passed. Now we have old business. I wanted to talk, we have Joey McCliney here. Wanted to talk a little bit about the 7/8 cent sales tax. We're getting close to the approving this or not on the 22nd of May. I hope we do put it out there for people to get their chance to get this passed. I think it's a good deal for people. We can say that now, but on the 22nd, we'll have to calm down a little bit about it. The tax, I've gone over the benefits of it. I think that tomorrow night we will talk about the electric rate reduction before the Utility Advisory Board. We're having a meeting and it'll be discussed. That's at 7 o'clock. And that's, I'm sure people will see that as a plus, and I hope so. Do you agree, Joey, that that would be a plus in terms of getting voters to?
It's basically, you're taking, for the most part, you're making it the sales tax increase a neutral for people living in town, because you're reducing it. A large part of everybody's budget is your monthly utilities, and when you cut off the sales tax or lower by the same amount you're raising on the sales tax side, it's a big positive. It can only help.
Okay. Also, there's a couple of issues, but I think that the language of the bill, and I think everybody has a copy of what Joey sent out. If not, then we got it last time. We'll have to get that out. Does everybody? They don't have it?
I have copies, I brought copies with me in case you wanted
Okay.
me to distribute them.
Yes, please. Thank you. This is the ballot language, and we need to really go over this because we only have one chance to get it right, but we still have time between now and the 22nd to make changes. But basically, we're saying that the question is, shall a sales tax ordinance described as follows be approved? Ordinance number, we have to assign the name and the number, imposing a general sales tax solely for the repair and replacement of streets, including curbs and gutters, only where deemed necessary to support the street repair and replacement, at a rate of 7/8 of 1% on the receipts from all retail sales of property or services within the city, which are subject to taxation by the state of Missouri under the provisions of section 144.010 to 144.525, the Missouri ordinances or statutes. Such sales tax to be imposed for a period not to exceed, and this says 18, but we'll have to approve that, years after its effective date, yes or no. So people, basically what it says is it can only be used for streets, the 7/8 of a percent, and in this case is an 18-year sunset, unless we change that. Is there anybody that has anything, if you do have anything to change in the wording, please let us know immediately, and Trish will be the clearinghouse for changes. So if you have something to change, you can send it to Trish. She'll make sure everybody gets a copy of it, and it gets to Joey, and then on the return trip, they'll come to her and get disseminated. So we're all on the same page on this. Is there any immediate changes or comments anybody has? Did we leave anything out that you can see? Okay. All right, so that's that. Now it brings us to, the other matter is, if we decide to go with the reduction, that would require an ordinance change and a restatement of new, utility rates. And that's been, we've calculated that and tested it. We can make one adjustment in the electric rates to make up for electric and the other, utilities with one adjustment to electric. And I think, Dave calculated it, he took, 0.00875 from one and ended up with 0.99125. Jesse took the other, utilities, which aren't nearly as much as electric, and I believe it turned out to be 0.9875. Now, we know what it is. It's not me closing my eyes and figuring it out. We know what it is, and it's been tested. So all that requires is for us to take the ordinance and insert those rates to change it to. And just in electric, in all the classes of electric will be covered. And that will make this a neutral thing for all the ratepayers in Herman, where they won't see any real change in what it costs them for utilities. Questions?
Let's see what the utility advisory board has to say. about it.
That's right. So I'll be telling them the same thing, and we'll see what happens. Okay, now,
So I'm sorry, can I just interject? The sample ordinance that is attached, or I just handed you, is a very, very early old draft, so it's not a current draft.
yeah, that's the second.
Yeah, it's been changed since then.
Yeah, okay, good, thank you. So this would all be updated, and as soon as we talk to Utility Advisory Board and we figure out how we're gonna do it, we can make the changes here and get a copy to everybody. So we'll have this plenty of time. Right, am I right? Okay, good, now the 18 years. I think I've talked about it, I'm concerned, it doesn't matter to me if it's 10, 12, 14, 16, or 18.
10 is too short.
Well, the problem is, we have to know we can do the streets in that amount of time, and that means we have to have enough years to gather 450,000 a year. 10 years gives us 4.5 million. If it's gonna take 8 million, we're not there in 10 years. That's where we got 18.
But if people vote for this, and it stops in 10 years, and the people that voted for it still doesn't have their streets fixed, it's not going to be very pretty.
No,
We need to go long enough that we get them all fixed.
My feeling is you don't put a sunset on it.
Well, I don't have a problem with that either.
I think that brings me to the next question, Joey. In your experience, does a sunset help get this passed?
Okay, you know I hate sunsets because I have to come back every sunset and revote a bond issue or revote the sales tax. However, yes, long and the short of it is, it always helps to pass if someone knows when the end date is. So, again, 10 years is going to be too short. You know, put a 20-year, 18 or 20-year sunset on it, whatever you guys deem necessary. Remember, at any point, you could stop it. So if you're voted out, you can turn around and they can come back in and a new board can come in and say, okay, sorry, sales tax is gone, and it can be voted out in a single board meeting. So you always have the option to sunset it yourself. But in terms of getting it passed, a sunset will help sell it.
So
And I hate it.
if we ended up finishing this job in 15 and a half years,
That's exactly right.
then we could stop it and there wouldn't be any more tax.
Or you could reduce it. You could go to a 0.5 cent to maintain. And then it will sunset though.
Can that be done at the board level, or would a reduction
Yeah,
have to go?
you could reduce it at the board level.
Okay. Another thing we can do at the board level, Joey, you're here to help with this. We could do a certificate of participation. Let's say we decided we had a huge problem with Washington, and we needed $1.5 million to do the whole thing, and all we got that year was $450,000. We could come in and ask for 3 years of,
Absolutely.
and we could do that, and that's strictly on the power of this board.
That is exactly right. And the beauty is again, you could say, okay, let's look at the project. If we bring in a road crew, and it's $450,000 to do several streets, and that's the road crew, ask the same road crew, if we triple our project size, if we go $1.5 million and pay it off over 3 or 4 years, will there be a discount? Will it be less expensive for us getting them all done, in a week as opposed to 3 years? It may be a better way to go. You don't have to make that determination now, thankfully. Leave it up to the prices. If they come in and say, yeah, we can do 20% more streets if you do them all at once, then you'll think, you know what, our interest cost is 3, and we've just saved 20%. That paid for itself. That makes sense. But you don't have to make that call now. What you're doing now, and you've really given yourself a limited scope of what you cannot legally do anything except streets and street repair. You can't do a sidewalk because
We
you've
don't wanna
limited.
do a
I
sidewalk.
understand. I'm just saying you have limited yourself to repair, replacement of streets, including curbs and gutters. Obviously, that's part of the street, but nothing else. This is as limited as you get, and it's fine. I'm just letting you know there's no wiggle room on there.
Okay? So if that's what we want, then that's the path we're taking. Streets only, that's what we said we wanted. If the aldermen change their mind, we have a week or so to figure that out, but you gotta let us know so we can get the wording changed. The way it is now, it's streets only, curb and gutter if needed to bolster the streets and whatever underlayment and under, infrastructure under the streets is required in that particular part of town, that's what we can do. Okay? I think that covers pretty much, what I did talk, there is I have talked to, Aaron Griesheimer. I did not talk to, MoDOT today like I wanted to, but, there is a bill, that the governor has put on was introduced, and it looks like it's gonna pass this year to do 300 bridges in the state of Missouri. That does not have any money for roads. There's another bill that does have money for roads, it's $50 million. And if that's passed, it may or may not include city streets. It may only be highways. It's not passed yet, it's unclear as to whether it'll even pass or even get to a vote this year, or next year even. So I'm gonna check with MoDOT tomorrow and see where this stands. But it should be understood that even that when we can pass this, and if there's $1 million grant out there that we get for streets for some reason, we can use the money, we can come up with the matching funds and get $1 million, and that's $1 million less that we have to, we can end it sooner or put it in the pie and do them faster. So we know about it. So we're up on that. I'm gonna report to you when I talk to Preston Kramer with MoDOT. I can't think of anything else. Do y'all have any questions? Dave does.
You covered Bevco and, Bulls Trailer Court earlier on the demolition letters, what about the rest of the properties?
There's
Only one other one.
only one other one, yeah.
No, there's at least 2 more.
No, well,
You got the one down on Fourth Street and then you got the one on Fifth.
well,
Yeah. And let's just say this, that we're pursuing both, knocking these down from 2 different directions. The legal aspect, and on those 2 properties, there's a house that burned out and another old school is falling down. Those 2, we believe the owners will take care of those. The old school has been sold, and apparently, it's possible the new owner was not told that these buildings had to be demolished. At any rate, that's between that man and the former owner, and they need to straighten that out.
Did he
But-
look at the building before he bought it?
Well, I don't know. But at any rate, we're gonna proceed with a legal course of action, so we don't lose any time.
Okay, as long as we got a full court press going, that's,
Okay.
At the other properties that it turned into less where there's weeds and growth and debris on porches and, they fall underneath the same ordinance as nuisance ordinance. Are we pursuing any of those, or?
I know the chief has, he's been to a couple of places and talked to them.
And without naming names, we're familiar with people, and they have taken some action, but I think we have to keep on it this time.
And no letting up anymore.
Because there's several of these places, the city is so beautiful. When we get our streets fixed, hopefully, knock on wood, and we clean up some of the areas that are just beyond, it seems like it's beyond anybody's control, but it's not. If we keep after it, we can get this turned around too. And there are several areas that may require some legal action. I don't know. There's some of them we're not positive who owns them or where the stuff comes from, but it's there. But every day we're finding something and we're trying to do our best. So the aldermen need to keep their focus, keep these things in your mind, and if you see some changes for the worse, make sure we know about it. Between Mark and the chief and Dave and I, we should be able to ride herd on it and get something done for everybody. Now, getting back to the sales tax for streets, and Joey came down and Joey, is there anything you can think of that we need to know or do, or something we missed?
You've got the 7/8, and if you guys recall, we're in a weird, there's an odd law that allows for a half, and allows for 1%, and allows for 7/8, but doesn't allow for 3/4%. Okay, so we'll go with 7/8. So that's why that number is there. We thought 1% may be too much. So between your question is written correctly. If you'd like some changes to it, or some additions to it, or something else, let us know. But I think it's how you guys want it. But between now and the 22nd, or before the 22nd, decide on that sunset. Do you want it 18 years? Do you want it 20 years? Do you not want it at all? You will have a better chance, and I hate saying this, if it has a sunset. But that's not my call. So it's the sunset and the language, and let me know. I will not be here on Wednesday the 22nd. I'm traveling, but I will be available by phone if you need me for anything. But I think it'll be pretty straightforward. You'll have the question ahead of time.
Once we make the final vote on the 22nd, then we have until the 28th. So we have a couple days. But I don't think we should drive to the end of the pier before we decide if we're gonna jump or not. Let's figure out what's going on and that we wanna do. So if you think of anything that you're concerned about in the wording, in the question, then let us know so we can get Joey involved in it. Dave can handle the ordinance, and he actually has a very simple way of doing this. So he's saved us a lot of worry, I guess, and calculation. Jesse has a spreadsheet that's extensive, and he's tested it, so we come within a few cents of one way or the other. So we can do all this. Is there anything else? And Joey's probably gonna stick around for a few minutes in case we think of something else.
Can I ask a quick question?
Sure.
Has there been an exercise, Mark, that your department has run as far as some kind of an educated guess of how many, blocks of streets could be run in a particular time frame? Because if people are talking about 10-year sunsets, where you could actually say, look, our figures just don't show this. I'm familiar with the previous effort that failed, and I believe it looked like it was 16 to 18 years to get a lot of those streets done from that plan. But is there actually a plan out there that somebody has run numbers on so that you could have a little more to go with? And
We need to do core samples. That's gonna be the determining factor. Simple overlay can be done quickly. Mill and overlay can be done quickly. We gotta rebuild all the way down, back up. that's gonna take a lot more time, and it's 3 times the cost, so until we do the core samples, I don't think we can make a really good educated guess.
And again, if we find that all the streets are underlayment is wonderful, and we can get it done in 10 years, we can stop in 10 years, and we can stop the sales tax in 10 years.
So
Which
the
has
ar-
the same effect as a 10-year sunset.
okay.
But,
So it's a fairness argument that you bring to the table.
yeah, I think we have a lot of people upset, and Dave's pointed out. If he gets his street done and I don't get my street done, we've both paid the same amount in, there's gonna be a lot of upset people. Also, with your question, we have a list of every street in Herman. And Mark has done a lot of work to calculate exactly how many feet of street we have, how many blocks of street we have, so we know what it is. The problem, we have 3 scenarios of ways to fix it, and each one requires a different amount of money per block. We don't know which one to apply to that until we dig down in there. And then we'll know, and we can get a very, very quick determination and very accurate. The other thing is, the way this is working, we bring in $450,000 a year unless we go the route of a certificate of participation. So that limits us as to how long it's gonna take us, because we bring that money in every year. And it's gonna fluctuate a little bit. It might be 470 and then 440, we don't know. But we can only fix what we have money to fix. So that, if you take the number of blocks of street divided by 450, it comes out to 17 years and 9 months or something like that.
Okay.
So that's how we get it. If we had less street, we could do it in 16 years and 9 months or whatever.
It also makes it harder to decide, you know, I've had several people say, well, you've gotta have a list of the streets you're gonna do and the order you're gonna do them in. Until those core samples comes in, that's almost impossible to do that.
What was the reasoning for 10 years?
I don't know, that's not.
We honestly don't know, that was someone else's idea, it did not originate with us.
Okay.
Some people just like to think they put their own ideas in there, doesn't have to make sense.
Some that I know Dave brought up and the mayor, and before the election, I know I asked about the core samples. I mean, I've heard they can't give you a better answer until I get the core samples. And I thought we kinda talked, we was gonna go ahead and get the core samples, but I still hear this, we'll wait until we get the core samples to everything change. Can we go ahead and get them so we can't use that as an excuse?
Put it in the
Going
budget,
forward.
let's put it in the budget, we're gonna have to figure out, the way that is priced, Mark, you wanna go over how that's priced?
Was it,
Well, they charge by the day, and they bring the equipment in, and they provide a person and a truck and an operator. And they dig the core samples wherever we tell them to go, and I forgot how much it is
I think you said
I think
$400.
it's $400 a day.
a day.
Yeah.
And we have to at least use, they say the minimum is 4 hours, well, I think we can handle that. So it'd probably be 4 days or something, I don't know how fast they are, but it's not a lot of money.
But we're gonna
And
need it anyhow.
If we need it, so why don't we do it? Then we can give more exact numbers. But we'll have to, I don't know how long it'll take them to get over here, so
Yeah.
we can check on it.
Might have to check the budget too.
How big
Okay.
are these holes?
Hockey
4
puck.
inches.
Okay.
And they save the whole thing and then they're numbered. Last bond issue, the bond issue that they did 7 years ago, they did only 22. And we think it should be about 3 per street and 1 in an intersection, so,
Probably at least
3 per
3 per
block, I
block,
mean.
yeah.
yeah, so it's a lot more. It could be 300 or 400.
Just if this shouldn't pass, we're drilling holes in perfectly good streets.
Well, that's,
It doesn't take much to fill the hole.
Okay.
If it doesn't pass, we'll just have to take a half a block per year and
Rocks.
move forward.
Okay.
We'll still need the core sample. That's not gonna change 10 years.
I
and
guess
they
you got
won't
a point.
change any. Whatever we get now is, we can use the ones
Yeah.
from 7 years ago. So we won't have to do those again. Okay. the next, moving on, but we'll come back if there's anything for Joey. A draft of the code enforcement officer job description, I passed that out on to Susan, and it's not by any means finished. It's, the next step is to get it, I think, in a format for our city, to make whatever amendments we wanna make to it, get Marlon to look at it, and add his 2 cents. We don't wanna duplicate efforts between this enforcement officer and the city police department, and we don't want this enforcement officer to take on any police powers. So, I think that's fairly well stated in here, but I think getting it to him is the next phase, and there apparently are a couple other ones to look at, so we'll try to get those into one, the best we can.
Is that limited to guest houses only?
Well, initially, the committee is set up to decide on a checklist to be used for new guest houses in R2 and R3. But we intend, I think, to utilize this as a checklist for existing guest houses at some point. So they're trying to work, they have people that already own them, that are coming in to talk to Susan, and she's got, and Dave's helping, but we've got quite an extensive amount of data. And so to answer your question, right now, it's for new guest houses in R2 and R3, but it could be expanded, and we hope to be expanded to everybody. And it covers things like, do you have commercial insurance for your property? Do you have exits clearly marked? Do you have a smoke detector? Do you have a fire extinguisher? It's not, there aren't things on there that are terrible, and it's all common sense safety stuff. They've done a tremendous job on it. So that's where we stand. I did do it. I said I'd have it. I did it. And it's not finished yet, but there's a good starting point. Okay. We're gonna table the wastewater rates, or I'm gonna table that, and we will bring that up probably, we'll figure that out, and I'll report on that next meeting. But it's tabled for now. Okay, Chief wants to discuss adopting an ordinance regarding emergency alarm systems.
I just want to bring to attention, as far as the police department, we get called to quite a few false alarms in the city of Herman, especially to certain businesses. In particular, we've been to one 14 times since October of last year. There's another we've been to more than that, and it just seems a lot of these are just not maintaining their alarm systems and not following their procedures. So the officers have to respond, in a timely manner to get to these calls, and we get there and it's just, oh, we just didn't do it right, or we just didn't call you, and it just seems like it's just a nuisance that they're just not doing what they're supposed to. And I've looked, and there's a couple cities that have an ordinance actually for that reason. City of Warrenton, I have, and City of Washington has an ordinance for that reason, that after so many times, that business is actually fined, or they have to pay a fine to the city, just for that reason, because they're not maintaining their alarms, they're not doing their procedures, or calling saying it's a false alarm, don't send an officer. So I don't know if you have a copy of Warrenton's, I also have a copy of the City of Washington's, I can get copies of that to review it, and how they have theirs written up as far as the police response and what happens after the first time you get a warning, and then after so-and-so you start getting fined. That if you're just not doing what you're supposed to or maintaining your alarm system, then you'll start getting fined. I mean, it's just a waste of our time and our resources when we keep going to the same place over and over in a week, and it's just nothing. And when something does happen, then we're thinking it's this false alarm again, and actually it is a robbery or something going on, or somebody's breaking into business because it's happening so much. So
Trish, do we have copies of those two?
The Warrenton one is in your binder, and
I can make a copy of Washington to give that to you also,
Very good.
to see how they have it written up for those
I
cities.
don't know, does anybody have comments? Have you read those, or should we wait till we get the other one? It makes sense to me that an owner would want their alarm to work, so that when it does go off, the police know that barring some type of unforeseen malfunction, that there's something going on there. And you can hustle on over there and see if you can catch them. So,
Yeah, we know accidents happen, but it seems like there's several businesses that it's just all the time, it's the same places over and over, and they just don't address it, and it's just us sending officers out there, and it's, again, the same reason, it's like, okay, well, I guess we'll come back again, but it's just like, they just don't care.
I think it's a good idea. Even us with the volunteer fire department have initiated, we're basically doing that same thing after so many.
Yes.
We charge them because, you know, it's a useless alarm that they're not maintaining.
and it's their responsibility to
It's their
maintain that.
responsibility to take care of their alarm systems, you know, and like he says, you know.
We have to
You
step
get-
up the
you get
response time to get
complacent
there.
when you
and
do it
some reason-
10 times in a month and a half, 2 months, so you don't get in a hurry, and that one time you don't get in a hurry, it's something really going on. So, I mean, I'm all in favor of us coming up with something.
So the
I
fire
think it's
department
an
doesn't actually already do that.
We already, yeah, the volunteer fire department here in Herman.
Is it at the pleasure of the alderman, do you wanna go ahead and ask Dave to draw up an ordinance, and looking at these two ordinances from Washington and Warrenton, and draw up an ordinance, begin to draw that up, or do you wanna wait?
If he wants to start an initial ordinance, working with Marlon, I don't have a problem with it. I think it's an excellent idea.
Okay.
I mean, it's up to you
Do
guys.
we need a resolution to do that?
No.
Okay, we'll consider that as instructions for, Mr. Polite to take those two ordinances and try to work them into our format, so we have something to look at, at least, well, I don't know if he can do it for a week from Wednesday, he won't be here. But let's give him at least until, next month, the first meeting of next month.
I mean, good time to be starting to be the new budget year, July 1. I mean, that way the new year starts and everyone starts on a clean slate from July 1 till June 30th.
Well, if we look at it, in the first meeting in July, then we can have the second meeting at the second reading at the second meeting, and that gives us a chance to change things still. So,
But if you want it effective July 1, the board needs to look at it in June.
Yeah, I was just giving that, just new budget year starts July 1, if that makes it
Yeah.
easier for everything to start July 1 for everyone in town and everything.
And I've got Washington's code at the office, so I can
Okay.
pull it from there.
okay,
All right.
good.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Thank
Chief.
you.
Okay, do we have any citizen comments?
I
Trish?
have some new business.
I'm sorry? New business?
Okay, my new business concerns parking. Is there any way, my group that has talked about things that we need to work on for bed and breakfast, parking is an issue, especially downtown. Could we mark parking spaces, say on like Market there along the Memorial on either side there, mark those parking spaces, and on those streets in the commercial district with like the upside down T to mark off the spots? It could just be painted
We've
on.
got a plan from the engineer to do Fourth and Schiller. Todd just has not had time to start it yet, plus we're getting requests for some handicap parking and other things on those two streets, so make sure that's all cleared up, because once they're done, we don't have to go back and start over with the arrangements, so.
Did we ever decide what parking space is, the size?
It's 20 feet,
I remember some guy come in here several years back and asked me that question.
yeah. Best I can
Well,
tell.
you should have run that guy out when you had the chance.
Yeah, I think we can pick up a few spots if we make this mapped out. on the
It'll
streets.
help parking a lot, because right now people park, they might leave 15 feet between cars. And,
Actually out by the schools need the same thing, you know, it's, parking's a problem in town, it's always gonna be, it's not gonna go away, but we can minimize it as much as possible.
okay, good point, and you're on it, and you'll kind of keep us posted.
Sure.
Okay, I have something. I got a call today about benches at the baseball field. Apparently not in our high school field, but the other little field for the other kids. We don't have enough benches over there. I didn't drive by tonight to see if we do.
What ball field are we talking about?
Well, we're talking about where the youth, I guess, t-ball and baseball and
We don't go behind the old high school?
Yeah.
I don't think we got any benches in there.
Well, he said he thought we had one bench for both teams, and he wondered if we could put a bench there for people to sit and maybe for the teams and so forth. I haven't been over
I
there.
thought we had a bench in each.
Well, there's benches for the kids to sit on that play. Now, maybe there ain't enough, but as far as putting seating over there for the spectators, pretty much everybody brings their own lawn chair.
Right, I think he was talking about benches for the teams, and I don't know, it seemed to me that people ought to bring their own chair. We always did.
That's
So-
something you need to give to the park board and let them discuss it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and maybe at
Come up
least,
with an idea.
let me look at it first so I know what I'm talking about. Then Bruce, we'll send something to the park board. They can examine it. Okay? Anyway, I was passing that on so that we have that. No citizens' comments. Do we have any more? Let's take care of the motions. The minutes, what do you wanna do?
Move to approve.
I'll second.
We have a motion made and seconded to approve the minutes. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Minutes are approved. Invoices for payment.
Motion, we pay the bill.
I'll second.
Motion's made and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion's carried. Conditional use permit, Dawn and Greg Libbert, owner, unoccupied, guest house at 112 West First Street. Do we have, any, do you have any questions or comments?
I'd like to approve this one also for December.
Okay,
Second?
okay. Motion's made and seconded to approve this through December, or, okay. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
You're gonna get them all, I'm sorry, you're gonna get them all at the same time then,
Right.
so they're all, okay, okay.
Hire Mike Bruno for mechanic position. Any discussion?
Is Mike a current employee in
No.
another capacity?
No.
This is a new,
New.
the mechanic, our mechanic has resigned his position and left the employment of the city, and this is a replacement.
And Mike is qualified?
Yes, he is. Very well. Yes, he is.
Can you test our generators?
You can.
All right, good. Let's test him out.
Okay.
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion's made and seconded, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion's carried. Declare a 2001 Ford pickup truck, wait a second.
Yep.
Appoint Brian Shorley to the Utility Advisory Board. Do I have a motion?
I'll make the motion to approve.
Second?
Motion's made and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion's carried, sorry, Don. I didn't mean to skip you. Declare 2001 Ford pickup truck as surplus property.
This one's on its last leg. We've replaced it already.
Make
Oh,
the
where?
motion.
This is, okay, go ahead.
Make a motion to approve.
Second. Motion's made and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion's carried. Approve bid from Brownstone for electric department materials and supplies. What is that?
This is just the stuff he needs to finish out the year, if I remember correctly.
Okay.
This is everyday
Odds and ends.
materials, yes, yes.
Okay, any further discussion?
Move to approve Jesse's recommendation.
Made and seconded, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion's carried. Caterers permit, Adam Buka Winery, Herman VFW, and Loose Caboose Saloon motorcycle rally at the amphitheater, June 8, 2019.
Make a motion, we approve.
Second?
Motion's made and seconded, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion's carried. Special event application, Midwest Blue Oval Car Show, 4th Street from Market to Gutenberg, and Schiller Street from 2nd to 4th, August 10th, 2019.
I make a motion to approve the event.
I'll second.
We have a motion made and duly seconded. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion is carried. We have no committee.
I'm sorry, may I add the Bacon Smokehouse Festival event application?
Okay.
It's for Mind Fest, it's for food sales at 100 Schiller and the Courtyard of Espresso Lane on May 18th and 19th.
Second.
We have a motion made and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion's carried. There being no reports or committee activities to report, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Made and seconded, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you very much, I appreciate it.